Buongiorno, everyone, all my great fans. Another Espresso with Vinny, number 17. And today's topics are more about dog breeds because I had a really good reply last time. People seem to really like the input about different breed personalities and what you're going to do with them. So we're going to talk about that. What I have been working on lately is deaf dogs. So how far can a deaf dog go? Depends on the dog willingness to learn. Believe it or not, a lot of these dogs with hand signals have done amazing things. So I have a case where I have a retired sheriff, deputy sheriff, that his adopted dog is all white. So they did the bars test, turned out to be deaf. So this is my special guest, Bella. She's inspired to be a service dog. She's a young puppy. She's all white. They do a bars test, check the hearing, and she turned out to be deaf. The owner really loved her. He was on a waiting list for 2 years. He was told to actually get a service dog for his eyesight impairments on both peripherals were shot. And he happens to be a retired sheriff. So there's some other issues with his nervous system and his mind where we want to be able to send the dog out to move people away from going directly into like hitting his shoulders and triggering something in his nervous system. So this beauty, Bella, she's more than willing to work. I noticed that in the first lesson. So a lot of people out there ask me questions about how far we can go with a service dog and what are its limits when they're deaf. So I constantly have hand signals for her that I can say for off, obvious things for down, sit, eye contact, pay attention. But most important is we have to condition Bella's brain to constantly be looking for my visual, because she can't hear, some low frequency vibrations. And if I'm real close to her and I do a deeper voice, I believe she can hear this. She's done some responses to me. Haven't you, Bella? So what I do with Bella is I test her a lot on I'm escaping and moving out of the area. And I want to make sure that she is aware of where I am at all times. Constantly test Bella. I want to make sure that she gets mentally conditioned. So this is a conditioning exercise for her to look for me for a visual at all times. This is what is most important when I'm working with Bella. Where I am, she needs to be constantly doing this. She can focus on something for a second, but she has to immediately be looking for me because she's dependent 100% on me giving her this signal, which means, see, she looked at me. I'm going to give you a command. I may tell her to go out front and look for people coming my way and steer me around them, or I may tell her to do something else. So her primary function is to reduce the stress of the owner to walking into people or hitting a light post or hitting his head on something. So it's that reassurance when he gets around the crowds that he can send the dog into maneuver him through. So that's going to be Bella's job. She's a young little puppy. She's 2 years old. She's deaf. She's trying her best, but she's really, really, really sweet. And she's eager to keep going out and learning. So that's most important. Take a bit of work, but considering it's a 2-year waiting list to get a service dog, it's worth it to this owner to take the time and the patience to develop her talents. And although there's some limits because she's deaf, we think it's going to be a good fit for what he needs. So that's one of my special guests for today is Bella. And she's been working with me in the boot camp, and it's coming along really well. Mm-hmm. And she gets along with Vinny, you can imagine. Vinny loves all these dogs, don't you? Common issues we have with larger dogs, such as the pit bull, like Vinny, can be controlling them in what level of play and what kind of play toys. So these type of mastiff breeds, we call them Molosser breeds because these big jaws, they came actually from along those old silk trading routes that Alexander the Great had traveled. And these Molosser mastiff breeds that became so popular in the world, they like to be guardian, as I've said many times, but when you play with them, like what's the proper way to play with a dog? They ask me many times, clients, how hard is too hard, like playing with a toy that they say you should never play with them, like rough. And that's not true. It just depends. They're very smart. I would say the younger mastiffs are going to have a little poor judgment on who they can play rough with. Sometimes they're going to play rough with your kids or someone who can't handle it. So obviously little kids, elderly, people that aren't that strong don't want to be tackled by the larger mastiff type Molosser breeds, such as Vinny or some English mastiffs and you name it, the Rotties. you want to be able to play with the toy usually versus play with your actual physical hand. You make toy like special time and you say toy, you can say pull and have them tug it and work it. And that's fine to do with these guys. You're going to get a much better response when you can actually say off, or where they release it, or gentle where they actually play, but they just nibble and don't pull as hard. That's actually a good way to raise your larger dog so that they learn the commands as gentle or off. Like people say, leave it. I prefer a singular word. And this is a good way to raise big dogs, because big dogs have to learn control. It'll work very well also if you take your dogs to dog parks, but I usually recommend, but let's say a doggy daycare, and you want your dog to play gently with the other people, you'll be able to tell the people watching your dog for you, to my dog gentle, and my dog will know what it means to not play too rough, because not all dogs want to play rough. So a younger, let's say 10-month to 2 years old pit bull or a Rottweiler usually is a little too rambunctious. They're going to play a little too hard and not really understand their own strength. And that can be a problem, and that can intimidate people, even though it's normal. But normal may not be normal for the other dog, or the person watching your dog may not enjoy that much intensity. So to understand other people's needs, which I don't blame them, it's not their dog. You want to always be playing with toys. I think it's healthy, and get those tugs going and say gentle or off with the dog. And so they should respond immediately. It shouldn't be something that you beg for. So that's a good daily exercise. I do it a lot with my dogs. I'll toss things for them, play with things, make it a toy, give them a command. It's not always that command, so that they learn to behave properly. Lighter skin color dogs, such as Bella, the dog that I had just previously showed you, or some of the pitties. Also, as we enter spring and summer, get a lot of skin hot spot problems. I always recommend getting a very, very high quality mineral. Nuvet's a good one for tabs. That's a very good one you can give your dog. That will help prevent a lot of rashes. That'll help prevent the hot spots. So spring and summer coming up soon. Now this is a good time to start loading your dogs up on a lot of healthy minerals so that they have a smooth coat, doesn't have a sticky coat. But most important is they don't start getting those nasty hot spots like you get on some of these bully breeds or the lighter all white skin dogs. This is Ember. She's not a guest. She's part of my crew. And then I've got Vinny, as you know. But I want to talk about a breed like a giant Schnauzer that's highly efficient in many tasks, very underrated, excellent for sniffing detection work, also very good for attack training. So these dogs, you really don't have to teach them to be aggressive to protect you, because they naturally do. They're extremely loyal, very smart. Not, again, the family dog to let all your friends run in and just give them a hug. They need to respect them and give them space and let them understand who you are for a little bit, and then they'll warm up. But this breed was so popular in Europe for its abilities. And I've got what we call puppy cuts. I got her all fluffy for wintertime so she can stay warm. But this breed has been so effective that actually, when the Russians had lost all their dogs in the war, Joseph Stalin said, we have no more dogs. And what would be the ideal dog? And the first thing he thought of was this dog. And he says, but we want a little bit more of a powerful mandible bite for it. So they mixed it with a Rottweiler. So my next guest is Wags. Come on, Wags. She's a female Rottweiler, right here. So their idea was to mix a Rottweiler, this is Wags, Rottweiler, and mix it with a giant Schnauzer. So 25% Rottie, she's a young one right now. She's still growing. She's about a year old. And then 75% giant Schnauzer, you will get what we call the Russian Terrier. So that was the ideal dog for the Russians, because they could shave it down in spring and let it grow fluffy for these extremely cold 50 below temperatures along the Chinese border and patrol. And that's what they did, the Russians and the Chinese, when they had their wall built there and they're separating in conflicts over territory. They developed the Russian Terrier. So both these dogs are extremely effective in different tasks, but now the Russian Terrier is a formidable beast. It's a very good protection guardian dog. Don't recommend it as a family dog. You have kids, probably not. These dogs are for a mature adult that can handle a very strong attitude. So the Rottie is very loyal. People haven't known about them personally in their lives, but I really like Rottweilers. I know there's a lot of home insurance companies that don't cover them, but again, it's not the breed. It's because people don't do their homework and they think all dogs are the same, like all people are the same, all cars are the same, all fish are the same. So this is their fault. Study your breed. You want to get something like a Rottweiler, or you want to get a pit bull, or you want to get giant Schnauzer. These are all type of strong working breeds. You've got to get someone who's experienced for real in working these strong breeds. No clickers, no shot collars. Get somebody who actually understands their mind, teaches you how to raise them from puppy and all the way up to adult, because there's different stages of how you train these breeds. So a lot of these Rottweilers, when they're around 1 year old, they're probably not going to, if they're going to be a big Rottweiler, probably not going to mature until they're 3 years old. So you're going to have on and off challenges with them as they mature. It's just not a slam dunk. And, at 1.5 years, 2 years old, you've got a reliable Rottweiler. They take a lot of work. So do pit bulls. Just the maturity level takes time. Again, going back to these Molosser breeds that have Mastiff in them, that kind of thick jaw line, they're just slow to develop. So you've got to be patient. You've got to be firm. Ciao, grazie, arrivederci on my podcast, Espresso with Vinny. And I will see you for more information in the following weeks.